The relationship between Taiwan and mainland China represents one of the most complex and sensitive geopolitical issues in the world today. This issue is deeply rooted in history, politics, and national identity, making it a focal point of international relations and strategic interests. For over 7 decades, the two entities have existed in a state of political separation, a legacy of the Chinese Civil War that ended in 1949. The war saw the nationalist government retreat to Taiwan, while the Communist Party established the People's Republic of China on the mainland. This separation, however, has been anything but peaceful, marked by periods of heightened tensions, military threats, and diplomatic maneuvering. The Taiwan-Strait has often been a flashpoint, with both sides conducting military exercises to assert their claims and readiness. At the heart of the matter lies the fundamental disagreement over Taiwan's political status. This disagreement is not just a matter of semantics, but a core issue that influences regional stability and international diplomacy. China views Taiwan as a breakaway province, an integral part of its territory that must eventually be reunified by force if necessary. This stance is enshrined in Chinese law and is a non-negotiable aspect of its national policy. Taiwan, on the other hand, has evolved into a vibrant democracy with its own distinct identity, and a significant portion of its population desires formal independence. The island has its own government, military, and constitution, functioning as a separate entity from mainland China. This fundamental difference in perspectives creates a volatile situation with the potential to escalate into a major international crisis. Diplomatic efforts have been ongoing, but the path to a peaceful resolution remains fraught with challenges. The Taiwan issue is not just a regional concern. It has global implications, affecting major powers such as the United States, Japan, and Australia, all of whom have a vested interest in maintaining peace and stability in the region. These countries have strategic, economic, and security interests tied to the status of Taiwan. It has global implications, affecting major powers such as the United States, Japan, and Australia, all of whom have a vested interest in maintaining peace and stability in the region. These nations often engage in diplomatic dialogues and military cooperation to ensure that the situation does not spiral out of control. Moreover, Taiwan's economic significance as a technological powerhouse, particularly in the semiconductor industry, adds another layer of complexity to the equation. Taiwan is a critical player in the global supply chain, producing essential components for electronics, automobiles, and various other industries. Any disruption to Taiwan's status quo would have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. The semiconductor industry, in particular, would face significant challenges, potentially leading to shortages and economic instability worldwide. Understanding the Taiwan-China issue requires delving into the historical roots of the conflict, examining the evolution of the One China policy, and analyzing the perspectives of both sides. The One China policy, which asserts that there is only one China, is a cornerstone of diplomatic relations for many countries. Furthermore, it is crucial to assess the international community's role in navigating this complex situation and to consider the potential scenarios that lie ahead. International summits and diplomatic engagements play a vital role in managing tensions and seeking peaceful solutions. The stakes are high, and the need for a peaceful resolution has never been greater. The international community must work together to foster dialogue, reduce tensions, and find a sustainable path forward that respects the aspirations of the people involved and maintains regional stability. The seeds of the Taiwan-China conflict were sown in the tumultuous years of the Chinese Civil War, a period marked by intense strife and upheaval. This protracted and bloody struggle was primarily between the ruling nationalist government of the Kuomintang, or KMT, and the rising Communist Party of China, the CPC. The conflict, which had been simmering since the 1920s, erupted into full-scale war following the end of World War II, as both sides vied for control over the future of China. The war saw numerous battles and significant loss of life, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. By 1949, the tide had turned decisively in favor of the Communists, led by Mao Zedong. Mao's forces, bolstered by their ideological commitment and strategic prowess, managed to gain the upper hand, pushing the Nationalists to the brink of defeat. Faced with imminent defeat, the Nationalist forces, led by Chiang Kai-shek, retreated across the Taiwan-Strait to the island of Formosa, now known as Taiwan. This retreat was not just a military maneuver, but a desperate bid to preserve their vision of China. The Nationalists established their government in Taipei, bringing with them a significant portion of China's gold reserves, cultural artifacts, and a large number of refugees. This move was aimed at ensuring the survival of their regime and the continuation of their cultural heritage. Taiwan became the last bastion of the Republic of China, the name by which the nationalist government continued to be known. This small island now held the hopes and dreams of those who fled the mainland. Meanwhile, on the mainland, Mao Zedong proclaimed the establishment of the People's Republic of China, marking the beginning of communist rule. This was a new era for China, one that promised radical changes and a break from the past. The division of China into two separate entities was never intended to be permanent. Both the Communists and the Nationalists viewed their respective governments as the legitimate rulers of all of China, and reunification remained a core objective for both sides. However, the ideological gulf between the two sides proved insurmountable. The Communists, emboldened by their victory and committed to their socialist agenda, saw Taiwan as a renegade province that needed to be brought back into the fold. The Nationalists, on the other hand, were determined to preserve their version of China, one based on democracy and free market principles, albeit under authoritarian rule. This ideological clash set the stage for decades of tension and conflict. The early years following the Chinese Civil War were marked by mutual suspicion and hostility. Both sides fortified their positions, preparing for the possibility of renewed conflict. Military skirmishes erupted in the Taiwan-Strait, most notably the shelling of the islands of Kinmen or Quemoy and Matsu by the People's Liberation Army in the 1950s. These skirmishes were a stark reminder of the unresolved tensions and the ever-present threat of war. The United States, deeply embroiled in the Cold War and determined to contain the spread of communism, pledged its support to Taiwan, providing military aid and deploying naval forces to the region. This support was crucial in bolstering Taiwan's defenses and deterring potential aggression from the mainland. The Taiwan Strait became a flashpoint in the broader ideological conflict between the East and the West, and the possibility of a larger confrontation loomed large. The world watched with bated breath as the two Chinas stood on the brink of war, each determined to assert its vision for the future. Over the years, the situation has evolved, but the fundamental issues remain unresolved. The legacy of the Chinese Civil War continues to shape the geopolitics of the region, with Taiwan and China locked in a complex and often tense relationship. As we look back at the genesis of the two Chinas, we see a story of conflict, resilience, and the enduring struggle for legitimacy and identity. The seeds sown in those tumultuous years continue to influence the present and will likely shape the future of the region for years to come. The aftermath of the Chinese Civil War and the emergence of two Chinas created a diplomatic dilemma for the international community. The world was suddenly faced with a complex and unprecedented situation that required careful navigation and strategic decision-making. Which government, the PRC in Beijing or the ROC in Taipei, should be recognized as the legitimate representative of China? This question was not merely a matter of diplomatic formality, but had profound implications for international relations and global politics. This question sparked heated debates within the United Nations and became a major point of contention during the Cold War. The ideological battle between communism and democracy was at its peak, and the recognition of either government was seen as a significant geopolitical statement. The United States, initially a staunch supporter of the ROC, gradually shifted its stance as the geopolitical landscape evolved. The changing dynamics of international relations and the strategic interests of the US played a crucial role in this shift. The Nixon administration's historic opening to China in the 1970s marked a turning point. This bold move was driven by a desire to counterbalance Soviet influence and to open new avenues for diplomatic and economic engagement. The Shanghai Communique, signed by the US and China in 1972, acknowledged the existence of one China, but left deliberately ambiguous which China was being referred to. This strategic ambiguity allowed both sides to claim a form of victory while avoiding a direct confrontation. This ambiguity laid the groundwork for the One China policy that has shaped US-China relations ever since. It provided a framework within which both countries could engage diplomatically without resolving the underlying issue of sovereignty. The One China policy is a complex and often misunderstood concept. It is not a simple recognition of one government over the other, but a nuanced stance that allows for diplomatic flexibility. In essence, it means that the United States acknowledges that there is only one sovereign state called China, but it does not take a position on whether that China is the PRC or the ROC. This careful balancing act has allowed the US to navigate the diplomatic maze without alienating either side completely. This policy allows the US to maintain diplomatic relations with both Beijing and Taipei, albeit unofficially in the case of Taiwan. The unofficial nature of US-Taiwan relations has led to a unique and often delicate diplomatic dance. The US has also consistently opposed any unilateral changes to the status quo in the Taiwan-Strait, urging both sides to resolve their differences peacefully. This stance is aimed at preventing any escalation that could lead to conflict. The One China policy is not without its critics. Over the years, various voices have emerged questioning its relevance and effectiveness in the modern geopolitical context. Some argue that it is outdated and does not reflect the realities of the 21st century. The world has changed significantly since the policy was first formulated, and new challenges and dynamics have emerged. They point to Taiwan's thriving democracy and its distinct identity, separate from mainland China, as evidence that the One China framework is no longer tenable. Taiwan's political and social development has created a unique identity that many believe should be recognized on the global stage. Others argue that the policy emboldens China and gives it undue leverage over the US and other countries. They believe that the ambiguity of the policy allows China to exert pressure and influence in ways that are detrimental to international stability. Despite its complexities and ambiguities, the One China policy has served as the foundation for peace and stability in the Taiwan-Strait for over 4 decades. It has provided a framework within which both sides can engage without resorting to military conflict. It has allowed for economic and cultural exchanges between mainland China and Taiwan, and it has prevented the outbreak of a major conflict. These exchanges have fostered a degree of mutual understanding and cooperation that might not have been possible otherwise. However, as tensions rise and China becomes more assertive in its claims over Taiwan, the future of the One China policy and its ability to maintain peace is increasingly uncertain. The evolving geopolitical landscape and the growing assertiveness of China pose significant challenges to the status quo. The coming years will likely see intense diplomatic negotiations and strategic maneuvering as all parties seek to navigate this complex and evolving situation. The outcome of these negotiations will have profound implications for regional and global stability. The international community will also play a crucial role in shaping the future of the One China policy. How other nations respond to the evolving dynamics between China and Taiwan will be critical in determining the policy's longevity and effectiveness. Ultimately, the future of US-China-Taiwan relations will depend on a delicate balance of diplomacy, strategic interests, and the evolving realities on the ground. The diplomatic maze is as intricate as ever, and navigating it will require wisdom, patience, and a deep understanding of the historical and geopolitical context. The Taiwan-Strait remains a flashpoint, a place where the fates of nations and the future of global order intersect. The choices made in Beijing, Taipei, and Washington will shape not only the lives of millions, but also the geopolitical landscape for years to come. The question is, what kind of future will we choose? One of conflict and division, or one of peace and cooperation? What's your take on the Taiwan issue? Join the conversation in the comments below and let's discuss the future of this critical region together.